priorities for a woman's life, number one, of course, we're talking about a married woman's life, is the husband, the children, and the house, right? Husband, children, and then house. And we talked about the children, we talked about the husband, and we said that preserving the deen, or having that religiosity, or the deen, and we talked about the life, and we talked about the mind, and we talked about the al-'ird with children, and al-mal. We went in details, which is on this page, right? We talked about it on this page. Let's talk about al-mawadda, which is the other part, and we said that the ayah, the ayah actually regards that وَمِنْ آيَةٍ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. We're going to talk about al-mawadda wal-rahmah, which is love and mercy. We talked about is-sakan, all that was talk about is-sakan, the tranquility, and now we're going to talk about al-mawadda rahmah, and then we're going to all the way to the children. All right, so we can finish, inshallah.
Love and mercy is towards the husband and house.
Love and mercy is pretty much towards the husband and wife, because the ayah is talking about خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. This is talking about the relationship between the husband and the wife. In order to get the mawadda, which is love. Actually, the word mawadda is more than love. It's more than love. It's mawadda is al-wud, is more compassion. And that's mawadda. It's not love. It's compassion. In compassion, the Prophet ﷺ said, أَكْمَلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِيمَانًا أَحْسَنُهُمْ خُلُقًا وَخِيَارُكُمْ خِيَارُهُمْ لِنِسَائِهِمْ. The Prophet ﷺ said that the best mu'mineen, the best believers, are those that have the best manners. The best of the believers are the ones that have the best manners. And the best of you are the best ones to their wives. Now, how does one attain that compassion or love? Number one, love starts with the heart. Love starts with the heart. Generally, when we actually talk about love being starting with the heart, we talk about إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الرِّفْقَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ رَفِيقًا يُحِبُّ الرِّفْقَ وإن الله يعطي على الرفق ما لا يعطي على العنف وما سواه. Generally, what does that hadith say? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves it when one is gentle. How do we win the heart? Because love comes with the heart. How do we win the heart? Number one, being gentle. If you want to win the heart, husband, you got to be gentle. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves al-rifq. Loves al-rifq. Notice that love and rifq. Because generally, we as humans, it's part of our own nature that we love those that are kind to us. Right? We love those that are kind to us. So have the rifq, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build in the love, between the husband and the wife. At the same time, in order to win the love, you got to remember that we can go into disagreements and we can go into these arguments. Win the heart, and winning the heart is more important, and it becomes the priority is to win the heart rather than win the argument. It's hard, but winning the heart is the priority, not winning the argument. That's why when you say the Aysha, when a group of Jewish men were passing by, and they said, Assalamu alayk, death be unto you. But I say that Aysha couldn't handle the situation, so she started bashing them, getting angry at them. So the Prophet ﷺ just told her, I told them what they told me. Just calm down. And then he told her, الرفق ما كان في شيء إلا زانه. Gentleness, whenever it's in something, it gives it honor. It's not, gives it honor. Gentleness.
Didn't Allah tell the Prophet too that if he gives them, I don't know, in
ولو
Arabic,
كنت فظ غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. Of course, if you were fadh is the opposite of gentleness, right? Because fadh is the opposite of gentleness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet, fadh is the opposite of where you're rough. Be gentle and you'll win the heart. ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. They would have repelled away from you.
What is gentle in Arabic?
رفق. رفق. That's why we say rafiq. Rafiq is the friend, the comrade. All right? Now, how do you, when you win the heart, a lot of times we tend to rush and disagree. Right? عليك بالرفق. Be easy. Now, when we look at, in order to win the heart, how do you win the heart? You control at least what they see. Right? You win the heart. Rifq is one thing, but they see rifq. They see rifq. They see. Now, when they see rifq, in order to see, remember, the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, إِذَا نَظَرَ إِلَيْهَا سَرَّتْ. If he sees her, she makes him be happy. All right? At the same time, in many women, she can do her best. And that's why part of seeing, in order to get the love, lowering the gaze is part of bringing love. How? There's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ actually said, النظرة سهم من سهام إبليس مسمومة فمن تركها من خوف الله أثابه الله عز وجل إيمانا يجد حلاوته في قلبه. This hadith ضعفه المنذري. But when we look at النظرة سهم, the sight is like an arrow. It goes beyond than just the outer appearance of something, but it actually affects the heart. So lowering the gaze, whether it's the man or the woman, actually brings and enhances the love between the husband and the wife. Her, and even when we say lowering the gaze, also reducing intermingling with non-husband or non-wife. When the man reduces his relationships with the women, he will find only his own wife doing the job. Should suffice. Same thing with her. She'll only find in her husband the most beautiful halal. When we actually look at غض al-basar, lowering the gaze, it actually brings in the satisfaction with seeing. Because love starts with the heart, is affected by the sight, and the ears can love before the sight. The ears can love before the sight. And that's why when we say the ears can love before the sight, it's very important to actually look at the art of using your voice. The art of using your voice. Because sometimes, without us realizing, your own voice, even if you had a good point, even if you had a good argument, you may actually lose your right and lose the hearts of others simply because you failed to use the tool to deliver your messaging. The art of timing. Choosing the time to say what you want to say is part of the tool in order to gain that love. Is the man ready to listen? is the wife ready to listen? Sometimes just choosing the right time may actually weigh as important as the whole argument. When we say art of timing, is the person in a mood to listen? Who's around? And a lot of times we have this habit where what al-Ghazali says calls it al-hudud al-nafs. Calls it hudud al-nafs. What is hudud al-nafs? Hudud al-nafs, it's the ego. We're just so centered around our ego that we want to win the argument because it makes us, it nourishes our own ego, it nourishes our own nafs. And that's what Imam al-Ghazali calls it. Calls it hudud al-nafs, that we're just so worried about getting those bonuses for our own selves because it makes us feel good. It enhances our own pride. We just want to prove it on somebody, and we want to prove them wrong. Listen, and it can happen. Number one priority is talk face to face, but sometimes face to face doesn't work because the dialogue all of a sudden becomes a monologue. They're not ready to listen. They're just not listening. It's not only there. Sometimes we're not ready to listen to, right? And that's why using other ways to deliver the message, email, text, is also another way. In order to win the heart, you need to work on getting your tongue and your ear, or what they hear from you, be the most beautiful things. And that becomes a priority. This is the priority. But you can't get to the heart priority if you lost the sight. And you can lose the sight if your tongue and what you get them to hear is in the wrong place. Go ahead.
How would you advise people into coming to a place of balance, moderation, whether it's you need to be prioritizing certain things, like say the deen in your marriage or whatever in your marriage, and then the others who are maybe too prioritizing that? I guess it's the same thing. Their priorities are out of whack, whether it's maybe too much about the deen, like too much on their family about something, or too much cleaning. Maybe they're trying to talk to their spouse, just maybe, my wife maybe to be doing your sunnah prayer, not doing your sunnah prayer, whatever, and to come to.
First of all, sunnah is between her and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't. Sunnah is between her and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He can give her nasiha to do sunnah, but he can't scold her for not doing sunnah. She didn't want to fast Mondays and Thursdays. He can't scold her. He can say it in a kind way. My dear wife, why don't we fast together? Again, the word is fast together, because he should be an example. You do it and I'll do it.
And then how would you advise, what steps should someone take? Maybe they're too strict, I mean. How can they come to a place of moderation?
So first of all, when you wanna give an advice, you first have to start with yourself. So he has to show that example on his own self. That's what that's what Salama herself, when the Prophet ﷺ ordered them to shave and slaughter, and they didn't obey, she said, you don't utter a word, get out and you start. The best example is when the person himself sets the best example. And generally, as women, when we love our husbands, we would want to do everything to please them. And women generally are a lot more loyal in their love than men. A lot more. There's not even any comparison. Right? Women, they're very deeply loyal with their husbands, and they're deeply loyal in their love. That's why her own body works only with that emotion of it. Unlike men. So in order to win the man, if he wants to really win, in that case that you actually brought about, if he wants to win the wife's heart to do more sunnah or whatever, he has to set the best model. And if she wants to actually also give the nasiha for the husband, she has to set the model. People don't usually listen. People don't usually listen by you telling them do this. Generally, we actually act in ways where we affect one another. Even if I start laughing right now, you're going to start laughing, even if you didn't know what I was laughing about. Same thing, if I would cry, you might cry, even though you don't know what I'm crying about. Because we are the mirror of one another. And because we're the mirror of one another, the best way to change the person around you, or the person that is living with you, is by you setting the example. Oh, they're watching you making salah. They're seeing you read Quran. They're seeing you making hifz. Now, generally, in Amr al-Ma'ruf and Nahy al-Munkar, it takes three things. It takes, if you are in a place of authority, al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf and Nahy al-Munkar, if you are in a place of authority, you can order. But when you actually order, it depends on the person. Like the way that you would order a child that is 6 or 7 years old is totally different than the way you would order an 18-year-old son. An 18-year-old son is not going to take it from you that way because his ego is in the middle of the way. But a 6-year-old son, he will accept. Now, understanding the context of each and every single one is important. How you use the authority depends who you are. 2, the tongue. The way you give nasiha with your tongue, the way you give nasiha with your tongue, it also differs from one person to another. But generally, nasiha, the advice, you always want to speak to the heart. Speak to the heart. Don't give it as a life, as an order style. Because when you give it in an order style, even if it's haqq, their ego would want to fight off. Even if it's haqq, their ego wants to fight it off. So in order to do it, sometimes you gotta do it in a different way. Maybe, chocolate along with it. My dear husband, I noticed this is happening. Chocolate, whatever. This is, just metaphorically speaking. I'm not sure if husbands like chocolate, but just metaphorically speaking. I'm just trying to give the idea, that's it.
Make
I'm just giving an example, metaphorically. The other thing is that bil qalb. If the wife, for example, comes to a level where she did try talking, she did at least try to bring about the argument. If the argument lasts more than 5 minutes, I would say it's not the time for it. It's not the time for it. Write it down. Because once the argument lasts for 5 minutes, for longer than 5 minutes, then the person just shuts down and is not ready to listen to. Now their ego is just in the way. Write it down on paper, maybe they can read it. Email it to them. Text it to them. But don't text when he's not home or at work, because, text him when he's home. Why? Because at least he's ready to get into the mood of reading or something like that. You don't want to text him when he's driving, because to him that might come into a clash. All right? So when he's home, he's sitting on his couch, he's ready to listen, text him now. No, seriously, text him when he's ready to listen. When he's ready to listen with his sight at least, because he's not ready to talk. And some people, they just, once you actually come and talk to them, they're just right away they act in defense mode, and then they're not ready to listen. So sometimes just text it to them.
You said the first one was place of authority, the second the tongue. What's the second one?
The third one is when the wife or the husband, they couldn't get to, even though they use all these tools, but they're still doing whatever haram or whatever munkar that they're doing. Then the least you could do is isolate yourself and just hate it with your heart. Right? So take a stance and hate it with your heart. That's the least that you can do. In cases like that.
Is it the same thing as like مرة منكم منكرا فليغيره
Yeah, that's where, but of course, أمنكم منكرا فليغيره بيده. اليد is what? Authority. فإن لم يستطع فبلسان. What is that? That's the advice. فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. That's where we got it from. And that's the same thing even with your husband. Do I have the authority to actually order him to do this or that? How much of authority do I have? What if I gave him advice? What if the advice didn't work? Then we go for the third part, which is, I tried my best. I'll just make dua. Right? I tried my best. I'll make dua now. That's all I can do. Do I necessarily, okay, I'll seek divorce? It doesn't always happen like that, because remember, there could be a family. There could be a family that keeping the children within this household and keeping the family together could be a priority. We don't always necessarily have to rush. And I get this very many times where the children might actually call on behalf of their parents, and they will say, oh, my mom and dad, they don't love each other and they're still together. Many times, yeah, they would be teenagers, that is the children that are calling me, and they don't understand that not necessarily that every single home will have the love and mercy, or will have the love between the husband and the wife. Sometimes if there's a number of children involved, that it becomes your priority, becomes to keep this family together. It's sad. It's sad, the hardest thing, but that's why the Prophet ﷺ actually said, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمن. The Prophet ﷺ actually said that a believer would not hate a believing woman, because he might hate one manner from her and another khuluq. If she's a mu'minah, will actually make him content. It can happen that the relationship might not have that much love in it. It can very much happen. And it can happen that the relationship might start out with love and then all of a sudden go somewhere else. Go somewhere else, totally somewhere else. And it might happen that the relationship might start out as what do they call it, those arranged marriages. And it goes into love. Love actually needs a lot of akhlaq to bring it in and instill it in. There's no way that you can have love without having rifq, without having that lowering the gaze and the person being delighted when they see them, and without having the art of dialogue and the art of the voice being there. Because if you don't have respect, as women, we know that if we don't see manhood in our husbands, we don't feel our own femininehood, right? Because we only see our femininehood if we only see manhood in our own husbands. If you don't see manhood in the husband, you're not going to feel your own self. You're going to feel like you're somehow imitating a different being, not yourself. All these different things. If you look at the hadith, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ actually talked about, he was talking about zina. The relationship generally is haram. But then if we actually look at how he said that al-qalb and the heart, or al-qalb and the hand, etc., all these different things, that it actually finally brings in the private part, the art of making love in marriage is actually precedent. And the Prophet ﷺ said, وَفِي بُضْعِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةٌ. وَفِي بُضْعِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةٌ. البضع is actually the semen, but بُضْعِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةٌ, that in the relationship between the husband and the wife, it's a sadaqah. وَفِي بُضْعِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةٌ. And now the Sahaba were wondering, أَيَأْتِيَ أَحَدُنَا شَهْوَةً. Does any of us actually get their shahwa? It's like their lust, they're fulfilling their lust, but at the same time getting the reward for it. And the Prophet ﷺ said that, you see, if it's trying to teach them the analogy, if he were doing it with a haram person, would he have been getting wizr? Would he have been getting sent for it? Yes, he would have. Then doing it with halal or in halal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give him the reward for it. And that's the same thing. Even with the wife. The wife is responsible for fulfilling her husband, and the husband is responsible for fulfilling both sexual needs. And the Prophet ﷺ actually mentioned in the hadith that if the man asks, that is the husband, asks his wife to come, that is to come for relationship, intimacy, even if she was ala dhahr, says that she was, even if she was like doing something on the tanur, which is baking something. But qatab is more like on the what is the back of a camel, that she should come to her husband. You might say back of the. There are different interpretations why the back of the camel. Yeah, she's probably riding there. Oh, she's probably riding there or something. But there are different interpretations. Some scholars actually said that at the time back then, that women used to think that if they would sit on the back of the back of the camel, that it eases labor. This is what some interpretations said. I didn't go into further studies to see, maybe is that where they, even when the women go through labor, you're a nurse, that maybe you can tell me, like they would make them jump on that bouncing ball. Is that something similar? Regardless, in the end, is that it's basically to mean even if she was in a situation where she was busy with something important, that's the most important thing about it, is that even if she was busy with something important, that she should be there for her husband. Because in the end, is that all those different things will actually bring in the love. Love brings in the mercy. When we look at the mercy is a combination of being humble. Mercy comes with the heart, because mercy starts with the heart. And mercy is a combination of being humble. What's the evidence? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَخْفَضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. This is talking about the parents. But you might say, if this is talking about the parents, why you bring it here? Because I wanted to get to how the ayah actually says مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. Like the wing of submission from mercy. Meaning mercy has different levels. Submission and very deep humility is to parents. But a type of rahmah is also comes with being humble. Take it easy. And not to mention that the hadith actually says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ رَفِيقًا يُحِبُّ الرِّفْقَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gentle. Mercy comes from being gentle. And the Prophet ﷺ, when you actually looking at the husband, and of course it's more actually when we talk about rahmah, it is actually more from the husband to the wife than the wife to the husband. Because rahmah comes more from the strong to the weak. Right? and comes more from the strong to the weak, not the opposite. So rahmah here is more a word from that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing more to the men to lay the mercy and to look at their wives. They're the ones that are doing all the responsibility. And remember how the ayah says, فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. If they obey you, don't take advantage of them. What is that? Don't take advantage of them. It means have rahmah, have mercy, right? Have mercy. Not because she's obeying you, you take advantage of that. Have mercy. And that's the same thing. And this is something very common, that women, because, again, remember, rahmah is usually from the strong to the weak. The man's weakness could be that his kids, same thing, her weakness could be the kids. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually warned, لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا يضار لا تضار والدة بولدها. Do not use the children, don't use the children as a tool of harm on the mothers. And the same thing for the men. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't use the children as a tool of harm to keep on threatening her. I'll take the kids. I'll divorce you and take the kids. And her, I'll divorce you and take custody over the kids. And you won't get to see them, and etc. That is haram. And doing it is even, of course it's haram.
No, I mean, I'm asking you because, like, as an American, you grow up hearing that daily. Like, if you're in a family that's divorced.
Yep, well, in Islam it's haram. Yep, in Islam it's haram. This hadith is in the Quran, Allah yahdiki. It's an ayah. It's an ayah. It's an ayah. The mercy.
Can you tell us what ayah in the Quran?
I think it's Surah Al-Talaq. Seeing mercy, see through the lens of mercy. الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن تبارك وتعالى. ارحموا من في الأرض يرحمكم في السماء. What is that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the Prophet ﷺ, is saying, الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن تبارك وتعالى. The ones that the people that are merciful, the most merciful will be merciful on them. Be merciful on the people on earth, and the one in the heavens will be merciful on you. Meaning what? Look through the lens of mercy. Look through the lens of mercy. See through the lens of mercy. Same thing. You might actually want a lot of things. He's trying to do, with double shift and 2 jobs, trying to make it up. Some men or some women, they're just not capable of doing multitask. Some people don't know how to multitask. It's a capacity. If you have it, don't necessarily ask your husband to have it, because they don't know how to do it. Yeah, it's a capacity. If you have that capacity, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. Right? Yeah, of course, most men don't know how to multitask. But for women, she could be washing the dishes, cleaning the house, taking care of the kids, and even teaching the kids. And she could be listening to a lecture at the same time. Right? That's how we survive each day. We just, alhamdulillah, rahmat rabbna. Rahmat rabbna. Mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah. If you're capable of doing that, don't necessarily ask somebody. See, people have different personalities. People have different personalities. Don't assume they have to be like your personality. And if they can't be like that, just like you, they can't ask you to be like that. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith said that the woman is created from a bent rib. Bent rib. But what about What about the bent rib? And then he says, إِذَا قَوَمْتَهُ كَسَرْتَ. Don't even try. Don't even try to correct it. Because if you try, it's going to break. Meaning what? She was created in that form for a particular reason. Don't even try. Don't even try to get her into becoming like you. Don't even try. Don't even try. Now, does that bent rib, meaning it's a deformality? No. It's a real thing in our own creation. If it were a deformality, then the Prophet ﷺ would have actually asked that it would be corrected. But he said, no, just leave it at that. It's part of the creation. Just like, for example, when Aysha, when they were at Hajj, and she started crying. And the Prophet ﷺ told her, لَعَلَّكِ نَفِسْتِ, that you got your period. Start crying. And the Prophet ﷺ just told her, فَإِنْ كَتَبَ اللَّهُ عَلَى بَنَاتِ آدَمَ. It's just that something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had written, meaning that had created in the daughters of Adam. Nothing to cry about. It's part of your own creation. Nothing to feel bad about. It's your own creation. Even though that women don't fast or pray during those days. But it still was not considered a deformality.
When people say that a woman is deficient because of her period, because she's missing out on the fasting,
this is not true.
And they use certain hadith to back that up.
Most of those, you know what? All those hadith that they use in order to back up their crooked interpretation are all fake, fabricated. ناقصات عقل ودين, that's a different story. That's a hadith sahih. But ناقصات عقل.
They interpret twisted for that. Yeah, that's what I mean.
نقص العقل is clear. Not نقص ذكاء. What does that mean? ناقصات عقل ودين. It's explained in the Quran. شهادة المرأة على النصف من شهادة الرجل. What is نقصان العقل? The نقصان العقل, based on the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, that the shahada, the witness. Why the witness? Because generally speaking, and this is not just me saying this, generally speaking, the women they go through different things that reduce their ability, their memory ability. For example, we even feel it when we get pregnant and all these different things. Our ability to remember everything, the details, is not as good as the men's. Of course, those physical changes, they're always happening. We know it. I mean, it doesn't take an expert. Whoever wants to deny it, just get pregnant and you'll see it. We know. It all of a sudden feels like the battery of your brain all of a sudden just shut down. Shut down. That's it. خلاص. Subhanallah. La ilaha illa hu.
I remember you put the orange juice in the cupboard.
خلاص. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us another capacity. That doesn't mean, take another hadith. Look at this. Another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that I have not seen, like anybody, أذهب بقلوب ذوي الألباب منكم, more capable of controlling those that are considered leaders in the community more than you. Who? What ذوي الألباب is he talking about? ذوي الألباب, he's talking about like the leaders in the community. Who's able to control them? The woman. أذهب بقلوب ذوي الألباب منكم. Now, what does that mean? It's not that they lack intelligence. The part, that's why he said ناقصات عقل, not ذكاء, not دماغ. Aql is, when we say i'qil wa tawakkal, means that firmness, which actually comes with the XY chromosome thingy, right? Remember those? One of them is more responsible of having the determination, assurance, and certainty with things, right? Which we as women, we lack that. It's a genetic thing. It's part of us. Now, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember when it comes to rights, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers that people's rights, you have to have 100% evidence. So when we actually talk about evidence, that's why He did not regard a woman's witness when it relates to women's issues as half. So let's say, for example, a midwife. We would say, istahalla al-walad, meaning that he cried, was born crying. The midwife is there. She's a woman. We would regard her witness as a complete witness. Why? Women know their issues. Women know their issues. Her witness would be half when it comes to business and those money and those numbers stuff. That's a different story. Yet at the same time, nuqsan ad-deen, that relates, when we talk about nuqsan ad-deen, that relates to reducing the salah and the siyam. Alright? Reducing the salah and the siyam. But that's why the Prophet ﷺ actually ordered us, for example, to do more istighfar, and to do other things in order to enhance it. Now, nobody can accuse you in particular of being less deen. Because that is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But generally, as women, we do less salah. We do less siyam. When we actually do less siyam, when the Prophet ﷺ actually said about that, he was actually trying to tell us, listen, there's one part Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the permission, in fact, the obligation. Pay attention to this. Not the permission to leave the salah, but the obligation to leave salah. We're obligated to leave salah. Obligated to leave fasting during those days. Why? From the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us that, it's an obligation. Ibadah becomes by leaving salah, not by doing salah. Are you guys with me here? Your ibadah becomes by leaving salah, not by doing salah. Your ibadah, your ritual, your religiosity as a woman becomes, submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes by not praying, not by praying, by not fasting, not by fasting.
So I've met a lot of women like this. They feel bad that they are not participating in the salat and the fasting. They feel deficient. Could you say that they are actually their iman is deficient in some way, that they are viewing this thing as bad, even though it's the qadr of Allah? They are viewing this thing that Allah has decreed as a bad thing. Could you say that is actually? No, it's not a punishment. This is a biblical. That would be a biblical perception of looking at it. No, in Islam, that wasn't a punishment for a woman. Not as like a punishment, but they're like, I feel like my imams are like, I can't be as good of a Muslim because I'm not fasting all the Ramadan or whatever.
No, not at all.
Actually, a better
Absolutely
Muslim
not.
by stopping because you're.
No, that's not actually true. Because the Prophet ﷺ, even when Aysha was crying, when she started crying, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? Just told her it's just something. كتبه الله على بنات آدم. There's nothing to cry about.
But would it be right that you could say, like, sister, actually you are a better Muslim because you are listening to what Allah has told you to do?
Absolutely. But you can do and enhance, because it is normal that indeed we do feel the spirituality less. So during those times, read Quran. During those times, make dhikr, make tasbih. During those times, even even attend halaqas, listen to more halaqas, do different ways of spirituality. Remember when we said that forms of dhikr, or forms of dhikr, we said there's visual dhikr, there's the oral dhikr, and there's the behavioral dhikr. All those different things are actually ways of dhikr. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be only in salat and siyam. We've got so many different ways. All right. Now the other part of mercy, again, see through the lens of mercy, and your spouse is a reflection of you. When you say that your spouse is a reflection of you, and mercy, remember when I said from the strong to the poor to the weakest, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ actually said, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنا إن كره منها خلقا رضي منها بآخر. And that's hadith is narrated. That the Prophet ﷺ actually said, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنا. لا يفرق meaning should not hate. A mu'min, a believing man, should not hate. But hate is in the heart. So if hate is in the heart, how is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, do not hate? You hate in action too. Because a lot of times you express your hate that's in the heart, you express it through action. You shove, you push, you scream, you yell, all these different things. So Allah, the Prophet is saying that a man does not act in hate. Does not act in hate. Because hate can be in the heart, it can be translated into action. Does not act in hate towards a mu'minah, towards a believing woman. Because if, for example, he hated one behavior or an attitude, another attitude, he will love. He will still be content. What's the evidence? Because she's a mu'minah. Because she's a mu'minah, she should have some good akhlaq. All right? Now, of course, when we talk about the mercy, there's really a lot to say, but there's the priority. The husband is the priority, and in order to get all these different things in with husband, it's really a lot. And because it's a lot, you want to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consider that is our ibadah. Our own home, making our own house a home, is a ibadah in itself. Now, as for the other part, remember, talked about the husband. All this was for the husband. Now we're going to talk about the house, the children, and the house. Before we finish, inshallah. عن مالك بن الحويرث قال أتينا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ونحن شبيبة متقاربون فأقمنا عنده 20 ليلة وكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رحيما رقيقا فظن أن قد اشتقنا أهلنا فسألنا عمن تركنا من أهلنا فأخبرنا فقال ارجعوا إلى أهليكم فأقيموا فيهم وعلموهم ومروهم فإذا حضرت الصلاة فليؤذن لكم أحدكم ثم ليؤمكم أكبركم. عن مالك بن الحويرث. Malik ibn al-Huwayrith is actually one of the Sahaba who died 79 Hijriya almost. He said, we came to the Prophet ﷺ and we were shababatun. Shababa, it's like young men. متقاربون. Like we're pretty much similar, very close in age. فأقمنا عنده 20 ليلة. We stayed with him for almost 20 nights. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said he was very merciful and very gentle. رقيقا, very gentle. So even though he was very gentle, فظن أن قد اشتقنا أهلنا. وعليكم السلام.
The road to the divorce. I don't know how you guys can get out.
You don't know how we're going to get out?
What do you mean? It's like here.
What?
The parking lot? The parking
lot is the road. The parking lot I can clean up, but the road, I don't know how you get to the right. You guys are down right up there, but that'll be okay.
Are the highways cleared?
I mean, it's a storm. It's still going on. Yeah, it's windy and making like almost
Oh, it's drifting.
50.
It's drifting. Snow drifting.
Yeah. So should we?
It says that after 5 o'clock it's clearing up significantly.
Really? Clearing up or clearing?
Clearing up? Clearing, the snow is clearing up, and I've seen plows working
All day.
non-stop on the way
Yeah.
here. I'm sure if it's really like a lot of snow right now, it'll be through soon. I mean, I don't.
I'm okay with
I've
finishing
been
over at the
watching the
masjid.
radar. I've been watching the radar. My husband's coming to pick me up, and at 5 o'clock it shows it getting much lighter, going from like gray blue, which is like really heavy, to like light blue, which is like
Yeah, we don't know. Even it was supposed to be bigger in the morning time than now.
Yeah, now.
Well, definitely I can't drive right now. So if I can't drive right now because
I mean, if you've been watching out the window, it's way worse earlier than it is now.
Yeah.
Like you can see the tree now. I've been gauging it. Like if I can see the tree, it's okay.
No, we're almost all over.
طب الحمد لله.
Yeah.
Now Malik ibn al-Huwairith, Malik Huwairith, so the Prophet ﷺ, because he was with them for 20 days, or they were with him for 20 days, the Prophet ﷺ, he assumed that they had missed their families. So he started asking them who they left home and all that. And this is, look at the mercy from the Prophet ﷺ. He started asking them who they left home and who's there and who they have, how many kids, all that. And this is part of the mercy from the Prophet ﷺ. So don't think that it reduces your religiosity by asking about somebody and how they're doing and how many kids they have and all that. No, this is part of Islam. So they told him, فَقَالَ ارْجِعُوا إِلَى أَهْلِكُمْ. He told them, go back to your families. فَأَقِيمُوا فِيهِمْ. And stay with them. وَعَلِّمُوهُمْ وَمُرُوهُمْ. Teach them and order them to do the right thing. Then when it's time for salah, let one of them do the adhan. And then the eldest one of you shall make the salah. Salat al-Jama'ah, that is. Look at this, and this is very important. Notice how the Prophet ﷺ was teaching them how, notice that they're all shababa, they're all just young men, but the Prophet ﷺ was teaching them how to be good role models for their families. In other words, raising children starts by you being a role model for your family. And then doing salah and letting them see it. Now, when it comes to children, there are also priorities. D-N-A-I-M. Correcting the deen, the nafs, the aql, the ird, the mal. Well, religion, life, mind, chastity, and wealth. Let's take each one at a time. When we talk about religion, the children's piety, teaching them the arkan al-Islam, the pillars of Islam, is the number one priority. Now, when we say teaching them the pillars of Islam, number one priority, in understanding the halal in life, in your five senses, in your seeing, in your hearing, in what you say, in your actions, all that. So first you teach them tahara, rulings of tahara. Rulings of tahara and hygiene, and what it relates to that part, and teaching them salah, how to respect salah, the rulings of salah, fasting Ramadan, giving them the training, donation, hajj, all those different things for those that do hajj. Then the details of sharia come later. Now generally you might say, okay, well, so do I teach them salah once they master it? And once they do zakah and hajj and all these different things, that's when I start teaching them to eat with their right hand. And no, it's not once they master it. We're talking about how firm and where should you be firmer at. right? Where should you be firmer at? If, let's say, the child is left-handed, and the concept of getting to eat with his right hand is still a struggle, all right? And you know that every time you tell him to eat with his right hand, he goes into this tantrum, and it's almost salah. Forget talking about it now, right? It's almost salah. If he goes into the tantrum, he might lose his jama'ah. Delay it. Have wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is doing the right thing at the right time. Wisdom is doing the right thing at the right time. Try to see the situation. Observe, is it the right time or not? As for when we talk about piety, the best way to actually teach a child piety is by you, number one, by you teaching them about the religion yourself, in example. Two, you be the person to teach them every day while you're driving. Every single day, nasiha. Every single day, in order to teach your child how to listen to you, every single day, make it a 15-20 minute before sleeping, you telling them a story of a sahabi, a story of an ayah, you reading them something. Make it a ritual. Make it a ritual every single day. Why? When the children grow up to listen to your words, it will be there in their mind. While you're driving, they're just waiting to get to the destination. You make use of that time while you're driving to tell them about an akhlaq. What a khuluq? Khuluq al-muru'ah, khuluq al-rujula, manhood, khuluq, the manner of respect, the manner of rahmah, all those different akhlaq while you're driving, before they're sleeping, while you're just discussing different things. And nasiha, listen to what they're saying. Have them discuss different things with you. Take them to the classes with you. They will listen. That will become a discussion. In the beginning, Mom, I'm really bored, but then you reduce the entertainment, and they will only find entertainment in talab al-ilm, in seeking ilm. Reduce the entertainment. They'll get bored. Once they get bored, they'll start to find in talab al-ilm entertainment. Reduce it. Reduce the entertainment. Wi-Fi, whatever, those different games, etc. On my phone, there's not a single game. iPads, my kids are not allowed to use it, period. Period.
Your kids go to school?
My kids go to school.
Public school?
No, Pioneers, Islamic school.
Okay, because in my daughter's school, they use iPads from kindergarten.
No, not in Pioneers, alhamdulillah. No iPads. They're not allowed to use them whatsoever. For entertainment, they play with each other, and they would take a book and go read. You don't like it? There's nothing for me to do with you. Get bored. Oh, they'll go find something. They'll go find something. My son, 3 years old. MashaAllah, autistic. That's it. He'll just take a book and go read, build his own things. He's already at MashaAllah, reading at a second grade level. He's only 3. Well, he's autistic. So, but alhamdulillah. But when it comes to the piety, they have to see the role model. Get them bored to get them there. When we actually talk about teaching them the deen, it's very important, especially here in the US, that you actually take the lead to teach them the deen, because nobody else will. Even those Islamic schools, most people are not specialized to actually teach in those Islamic schools, or even on those weekend schools. Most of them are not specialized. You have to do what others are not doing. You have to take the lead. You learn. If you don't know, lectures are on YouTube everywhere. Great lectures. Listen. You enhance your ilm and they'll enhance it. You start giving it to them. What you want to see in a grown up, start teaching it them from now. Because they won't listen to you when they're 20. But they'll listen to you right now. Because they don't dare to tell you no. One of the most important things about raising a child, you being be a stubborn mom. Only stubborn moms will discipline children. But if the child is going to keep on getting away with everything, yep, stubborn moms, you got to be stubborn. Because I said so. You're going to do it. You have to be a stubborn mom. Stubborn and evil moms make the best moms. I don't mean evil, you guys. I don't mean it in a... But I mean evil meaning stubborn. Now the other part, of course, deen is a priority. Nafs, that is preserving their health, comes the second part. When we say preserving their health, and unfortunately many are actually so concerned about their kids eating organic and forget about the deen. All right? It's like, okay, they're eating organic, but they're forgetting their deen. So no, let's preserve their nafs and preserve their aql. Let me get to the aql because nafs, that's a lot of, everybody knows it now. Al-aql. When it comes to preserving al-aql, pure halal and thoughtful resources to maintain good deen and life. Preserving al-aql comes with preserving their perspective. Because their mind acts the tool for them to see the world. Acts the tool that makes them see the world. And this is really important. Ibn al-Arabi, when he talked about zakah, and Ibn al-Arabi is actually Maliki madhab. And he said about Imam Abu Hanifa, he said, جعل القرآن مرآته فأبصر الحق. جعل القرآن مرآته. He made the Quran be his lens, and he was able to see haqq. Now what you want to do is that you want to make the Quran and sunnah be the lens that your children see through the world in, to see haqq. How? Your child has to and must have a wird every single day. They have to read some part or memorize some part from the Quran and do a story on a Sahabi every single day. They have to have Quran, even if it's a page, that every single day you have to memorize or read a page. Every single day, 15 minutes, you're going to do a story of Sahabi together. Every single day, we have to sit together and discuss a khuluq. Every single day, make it a wird. Every single day, make it like a ritual. Every single day, we're going to do this. Now, when it comes to al-aql, when you actually feed the mind, it'll start seeing the world in haqq. And they'll start seeing the world the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember, al-ma'siyah will affect the way we perceive things. Sin will affect the way we see things. That's why Qawm Lut, what they say, they actually regarded that their people, or that Prophet Lut, because they're seeking purity, that they're being disgusting. Because they're seeking purity, that they're being disgusting. Because Prophet Lut was telling them that sexual deviation, not orientation, fashar, not an orientation, it's deviation. Because when you call it orientation, meaning taste, no, it's deviation. That's what the Quran was regarding. So right here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling us how they saw that deviation as this, because Prophet Lut was telling them to correct it. They saw that Prophet Lut as disgusting. What's wrong with him? يتطهرون, that was their problem. They're seeking purification. Right? What did they want? How did they want to punish them? Expel them out of the country. Get them out. They considered and they regarded that they deserved punishment. All right? Now, what happened? That sin made them see haqq as batil. And it went farther than seeing that particular sin. But it made them seeing purification as disgusting. And today, modesty is seen as extremist. What's wrong with you? And seeking spirituality. I remember when I said I wanted to study Sharia, I had so many people telling me that I was going to become Sufi. I wonder if they meant by Sufi something else. No, seriously. I even had somebody from my extended family come all the way. I never saw him, but he came all the way from the other city just to tell my dad, I heard your daughter was going to study Sharia. Don't let her study Sharia. I never met that relative ever in my life. He only came to our house once, and that just to say that.
You had a follow-up.
Yeah. Wallah al-azim. Once you even decide to study Sharia, people are like, oh no, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Start seeing the world in the opposite way. What's wrong with you? Now, in order to correct the aql and the mind, you got to make sure that it's feeding right. In order to get it feeding right, there's no better feeding than the mother herself. And that's why we as mothers are actually the schools of our children. But you have to do daily portion of tafsir. You study yourself and do tafsir for the ayah. You study yourself and do story of Sahabi. You study, if you don't know how to, go to YouTube and learn. Go to YouTube, listen to Yasser al-Qadi, Mufti Ming, listen to their lectures and start taking notes and you start teaching it. Yasser Birjas, who else? So many different names. Umar Sulaiman, so many other places. Go.
So my husband actually started reading like books called Surah al-Hala, and my kid finds it boring because they're in the pictures. And we have a young kid, like about 83. They want to see pictures, like books that have visual things. Like it's challenging when you try to.
Well, the way that I teach my kids, the way that I teach my kids, I usually always like relate it. Like for example, when I speak of, let's say the Sahabi, for example, Jarir ibn Abdullah, for example, I would say, well, based on the hadith, that Jarir ibn Abdullah was very tall. And he was Bajli. He's from Bajli. They're generally huge. Versus, and I would say like how Jarir ibn Abdullah came in, and then the Prophet ﷺ said something, and then the Jarir ibn Abdullah, when he came into the masjid, everybody started staring at him. Now he didn't know what was going on, so he asked the guy next to him. He said, "What did he say?" And the guy next to him, Jarir ibn Abdullah, was wondering if the Prophet ﷺ had said something because everybody is staring at him all of a sudden. So the man told him, the Prophet ﷺ, a man is going to enter the masjid, going to enter here, a man, عليه مسحة ملك, that has the appearance of an angel. So everybody started staring at him. But when he heard that, he smiled. It's actually talking about me. Now, I'll tell you, my kids, for example, when I said, عليه مسحة ملك, I said, Azadeen, what do you think he looks like? So he started saying, I don't know, to him, he, I guess, imagined my brother was the most handsome boy. So he said, he probably looks like your brother. To him, my brother is the most handsome one. So you can ask them, what do you think he looks like? You can say, Bilal ibn Rabah. Well, his mom is Hamama, and she was also taken as a slave, and he was originally from Ethiopia. So what do you think he looks like, Abdi? He's going to tell you, he looks like us. He looks like us. Now that'll give him, you ask him rather than him looking for a picture, you tell him, what do you think he looks like? Abu Musa, Allah ibn Mas'ud was very short, exceptionally skinny. Exceptionally skinny and exceptionally short. That'll teach them that it's not about height and it's not about a six-pack. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud weighed more than that. When he fell, and all the Sahaba were laughing at him because he was exceptionally short. But the Prophet ﷺ was telling them that it's not what people see as considerably deserving weight because of the weight that somebody might hold. When they started laughing at him, the Prophet ﷺ said that on Judgment Day, his ankle itself will weigh more than the mountain of Uhud. So that's for you to change it. When you actually look at, for example, different Sahaba, this is just to answer her question. So tell them, and there are, for example, a lot. For example, there are in the books of Ahadith, they will tell you Umar ibn al-Khattab was bald, he was tall, he was this, and they'll tell you this Sahabi was dark-skinned, like Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, dark-skinned, for example. You know, this Sahabi, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was dark-skinned too. All right? So they'll tell you which Sahabi. Abu Dharr al-Ghafari was dark-skinned and tall, actually, Abu Dharr al-Ghafari. I'm very visual, so I have to also get an idea of what the Sahabi looks like. All right? And in order for me
Where do you get all these stories? I never heard of the description of the Sahaba before.
Well, I go for Usd al-Ghaba. I go for the original books. But they're available. They're available on. Yeah.
A lot of them are.
A lot of them.
Translated by reputable people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Isn't there like a YouTube series of Sahaba hadith pages?
I know that Yasser Qadi has a YouTube series on the stories, the story of the Prophet ﷺ, like almost 120 or 25 videos. I highly recommend that. He did a very good job, by the way. He did a very, very good job.
Muslims is on too with someone else. They're taking clips from their lectures.
Okay.
I found it.
Yeah, well, they're available. The other part is preserving chastity, and that's where teaching modesty. Remember how that Sahabi actually said, Jundub, how he actually said that we were taught Iman first, and then before we were taught Quran, and then when we learned the Quran, it increased our Iman. Remember when we said that in the beginning? And that's the same thing. When you correct the mind, you will be able to correct the action in the modesty area. If the girl and the boy are in their mindset, preserving their modesty and teaching them about modesty is going to be easy. You're not going to struggle with it. Because their mind is pure. And teaching them adab al-isti'dhan comes with it. Teaching them adab al-isti'dhan, teaching the child when to knock at the door. How when mom and dad are alone in the room, you don't have to knock at the door. You don't have to unless it's very, very, very important. The manners for entering home. Once, for example, your son reaches the age of, let's say, 12 or 13, how no, you shouldn't be alone with a woman, just to train him. Or no, you can't sleep over. I'm totally against sleepovers. Or manners of entering homes. When you're actually 12 years old, for example, or a girl 12 years old or somewhere around there, how, okay, now there are different regulations. Now you're getting them to understand how their body is working with the world around them, or their body is now connecting with the world around them in a different way. So before their body turns upside down on them, you teach them what to expect of their body. And because their body might actually do that, you're teaching them, you're now learning this because your body is going to try to sway you to take you this way. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask on that. When I was in prison, there was one of my husband's family members was 13, we were 13, but because of how the culture is over there, his mind reminded me more of like when kids are like, not his intelligence, but his heart reminded me of like an 8, 9-year-old boy. And over there it's completely fine if you don't wear a hijab around boys. And he hadn't gone through puberty or anything. In that instance, because culturally they don't have the thoughts or the feelings, at least when I was there, would it be okay not to wear your hijab around them if they're before puberty and culturally they're
puberty is not based on culture.
I mean, like before puberty, like that hasn't happened yet, and culturally the mind isn't like a 13-year-old boy here.
Culture. Let me explain something. When the boy or the girl they hit puberty, it doesn't necessarily happen in one day. All right, it doesn't happen in one day. In Islam, puberty, many people actually have this wrong. They think that once the boy hits a wet dream or the girl hits menstruation, that's when they actually hit puberty. No, it's when their body starts revealing the different changes, when their body starts reacting with the world around them. It's a gradual process. 2, when the boy goes into the age of puberty, regardless of how the culture is clean or not clean, regardless of that, the ruling of Adal Istidhan and Hijab applies. نقطة. Pay attention to this. When Usama ibn Zayd reached the age of puberty, Usama ibn Zayd, he was the son of Zayd ibn Haritha, the adopted son of the Prophet ﷺ. Usama ibn Zayd went to tell the Prophet ﷺ what he had seen in his dreams. Now he was too innocent to understand what that was. So he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him, well, this is what I'm seeing. So the Prophet ﷺ then ordered his wives not to let Usama ibn Zayd in their homes anymore because he hit puberty. Listen to this. Sayyida Aysha and his wives were crying because they were dealing with him like he was their own son. Look at their culture. And Usama ibn Zayd was crying because he didn't feel that he had grown. He didn't feel that he had grown. He was feeling that he was just in fact, he was innocently telling the Prophet ﷺ of what he was going through. He was innocently telling the Prophet ﷺ what he was going through. But the Prophet ﷺ was like, okay, stop right here. Usama ibn Zayd cannot come into the houses anymore. He can't be with you alone anymore. He cannot be entering the homes without a mahram or without me being present anymore. That's it. He has now transferred from a young boy to an adult, regardless of the culture.
How old is that?
I don't know how old he is. I don't know how old he was, but we're looking at probably around 13.
I was thinking this hadith was the same, but the instance where the Prophet the foster home adopted mom to give himself the breast milk? Is that a specific?
You mean, okay, now that
that
one was specific.
unique.
That was just
Yeah.
specific. That
Yeah.
was just specific. That is not to be
Yeah,
for.
but was it the scenario or?
No, that was a different scenario. No, that was a different scenario. All right. The other part, then teaching them adab al-isti'dhan, the manners for entering homes, and the manner of lowering the gaze. Lowering the gaze, you teach them from young, even earlier than that, on how to realize to lower your gaze. Nobody should see this, should see you. The wrong touch, etc. This is very important to teach it to children, especially with all the different things that we're seeing. The manners in dealing with the girls, boys, in dealing with the other ones, and how it's very important to actually teach them that at this is the wrong touch, this is the right touch, nobody should do this. Or even dealing with manners, it's not just a touch, but even when it comes to manners, try to associate them more. For example, girls, be around women, and boys, go with your dad to the masjid. Go and learn with the men. Try to get them more into learning manhood from the men around them. If you are able to choose the teacher, if you have a daughter, choose a female teacher for her. If you have a boy, choose a male teacher for him. That'll teach him how to see himself through the teacher. Because a lot of times they see through their teachers, they see themselves. They become their role models. Go ahead.
So I have a question, just because you're talking about boys and girls. So I have two girls and a son in the middle, and he wants to like dress up in a dress like my daughters and wear like nail polish and all this stuff, and I don't let him, But like my husband works 2 jobs, and he works second shift and 12 hours on the weekend, so my husband's not home a lot to spend time with him one-on-one. So how would you advise me to be able to get him away from the girly stuff?
So you could tell him, you could actually introduce tell him, no, boys don't wear girl stuff.
Yeah.
Boys wear different stuff. And you can actually introduce it to him and actually say, this is for girls and this is for boys. You can actually explain it to him and why. You can explain to him why this is yours. Well, because you're going to be running, you're going to be doing these things, etc. Just like daddy. And then you can show him and let him see how dad is his role model. All right. So this is very important. And never mind what these right now, these deviated perceptions, and they'll tell you, let him act on his own.
Yeah. That's what they say. Yeah, no, they do. They say it's okay. It's just a kid.
No, it's not. He's not just a kid. He's learning manners.
I don't like it.
Nope.
And I don't want him to be gay.
No, it's not just a kid. He is learning now. He's learning now the concept of the concepts. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ actually said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed the women that imitate the men and the men that imitate the women. Now they're learning. From now they're learning. This is me. This is what I do. This is from the early childhood they learn. And all these different today, they'll tell you, oh no, this is not from the Islamic psychology. This is not Islamic psychology, and what they tell you, he's just a child, just don't. No. He learns, he absorbs akhlaq from now. He absorbs akhlaq from now, and she absorbs akhlaq from now. So you tell him, and even my daughter, for example, I don't allow my daughter to absorb the understanding that in order for you to be considered beautiful, that beautiful is the most important term for a girl. I don't teach my daughter that thing. No. You're important if you get education. You're important, not if you are beautiful. That's why I don't buy dolls for my girls, for my daughter. No. She can play with a doll, but only those baby Dora dolls or those baby dolls, not those dolls that have Barbies and all those, because that actually carries within it a concept. It carries an idea. It carries an idea that this is what you should look like in order to be important or in order to be beautiful. No, there's something more. You're beautiful with your akhlaq. You're more beautiful with your akhlaq. You're beautiful with your haya. You're beautiful with your adab. You're beautiful with your gentleness. And that's what you're teaching her. And that's also why is a 4-year-old trying to put nail polish? I don't understand why a 4-year-old is putting nail polish on. Where did that concept? Am I feeding my daughter the wrong ideas? No, that type of beautification should not be on her mind. That's.
Sometimes they do what they see their mothers do.
Like my daughter wants to wear makeup.
Well, maybe you should also work on. Okay, well, show her a different example of what you want to do, what you want your daughter to be like. What you want your daughter to be like. Are you constantly just nail polishing your fingers?
Oh no.
No, you're not. Of course not.
Like, you know, when I put makeup on, I think she wants to wear makeup, so we let her wear makeup in the house. We say, only in the house you can wear makeup and perfume, not outside.
Well, that's a different thing. But I think it's very important. I think it's very important for them to understand certain things are only for mama. They have to understand. This is for mama, and this is for you. You have to put that. You have to lay out that boundary. This is for mama. Just like you have your things, this is for mama. It's very important to lay out the boundaries. Just like you have your room, she's got her room. She doesn't have to share everything with you.
Yeah.
And she has to understand that there's also age limit to things too. Anyhow, the other part is the issue of wealth when it comes to halal source and administration. How do you, of course, halal source, and how do you administer? How do you spend the money on different things, needs versus the wants? The final thing we get to is the issue of the house. The final thing that we get to is the issue of the house, and that is number one, the hygiene of the home. 2, the art of maintenance, having that maintenance for the household, and making the house a peaceful place to live in, and preserving. Remember, this is DMAIM, you guys. All right, this is DMAIM right here, and preserving the privacy for the house. Why preserving the privacy? Because this is urd. And finally, preserving the mal of the house. Serving the mal of the house. Again, the deen of the house, in piety, in hygiene, tahara, the nafs, or within the life at home, making peace of mind at home, preserving the chastity of the home, and money management at home. And there we go to the end of our priority, our fiqh of priority. Yep, go ahead.
I'll ask, like, probably something that we'll all come across, but like I have a number of physical conditions, and sometimes like often for
so we're live Facebook here, just to tell you. Okay.
Yeah, it keeps me from being able to do certain things around the house. And as it gets worse, I'll be able to do less and less. What should the woman do, like, in that case?
لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. So how much are you able to stand? How much are you able to do? So looking at the priorities, you want to see how much are you able to do. Then the rest becomes the husband's responsibility to give you that support. When your body shuts down on you, your husband is supposed to be there to give that enhancement. If you can't, tell your husband, here, my body shuts down on me. I need that help.
But it's not as if she's not neglecting her health in that case.
She's not. Do as much as you can. Do as much as you can. That's the best that you can do. As much as you can. And saddidu wa qaribu. What is saddidu wa qaribu? Saddidu, do as much as you can. Or saddidu, try try to do that, get to that perfection. But if you can't, at least be close to it, right? That's the least you can. That's the best that you can do. Saddidu waqarib. Go ahead.
Like, is it a wrong perception when a person thinks that your job as a woman or wife is cleaning house, taking care of babies, but then once, let's say you start school, you start a job, and you're not doing, like, it gets down, or like you're not doing your job. Why are you doing other
Okay.
stuff? Like,
So I'll tell you what. When it comes to women that are working and women that are working and women that are going to school, once children are involved, then you want to see, am I affecting my children's rights or not? If you're affecting your children's rights, your children are a priority, delay it. This is what I would recommend. Delay it. Delay classes, delay at force some time. Definitely, it's very hard for a woman to acquire education, take care of her kids, and do everything and even work at the same time. You're going to miss out on one of them. It can't be your children. And it can't be your body. Therefore, but it can be your education. Delay it. Or reduce the number of hours that you're studying. Or reduce the number of hours. Or delay pregnancy. Delay pregnancy if you need to. But you have to work it out before you even put the children at risk. Unfortunately, I know that there's the pressure within our society to have women, yeah, you just need to get the degree and that's the only thing that'll make you important, etc. No. A woman working on maintaining her household is her number one priority. I know there's that community pressure, but you want to remember that don't look at the community pressure, look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what He's owed you. Consider Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's obligations first. Remember, husband, children, house. And then the rest goes for later. Husband, children, house. Your job is public. That becomes the outside margin. Anything outside your house becomes a secondary part. Your home is your priority. Your husband first, your children, your home. And then if you have the time to go to school, and if you have the time to work, then you can do that. But your kids, they take priority. Any other questions? Even we're taking questions even from Facebook.
sometimes it's like tell you that you don't want to have kids, you don't want to have more kids, and you want to have like that's an option. Right?
Can your husband, if he wants more kids and you don't want more kids?
Yeah.
What? Okay. So this is a mutual thing. This is a mutual thing. And therefore, you both have to agree together on what you want and if you are ready for it or not. All right? So I guess we'll end right here. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad, unless there's somebody online that has a question. Answer it right now. Go ahead.
What if I don't believe your house with perfume on, but nowadays our laundry soap is so like fragrance and that kind of thing. The other day I was somewhere and someone commented from a distance and I smelled really good. What is considered a perfume? Is it the intention?
A perfume is considered a perfume if it has any type of sweet fragrance. All right. is considered a perfume, whether that meant Christian Dior or whether that meant perfume that you bought from a dollar store, or whether that meant you got it from the Somali mall, or whether that meant it's on your clothes. If it has a sweet fragrance that attracts, it's going to be called perfume.
Ditch my awesome laundry stuff. Or I'll take it.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us iman and taqwa. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad. Ameen ya Rabbi. Allah yakramkum. I don't know if I'm going to be leaving. I think I'll be safe.
Aysha, it's fine. The roads are clear. They're plowing it. I don't think you should stay. I mean, there were like, we passed like maybe 10 or 20 of the plows.
Yes.
Not even check with the plows on the way here.
I'm scared.
Where's your husband?
I'm scared. He's at home.
Okay. So the home and the children and the husband are fine.
And my safety is a priority.
BMIS, whatever.
You come with us.